Although her appearance was no different from the past, she still had a delicate face that was no less beautiful than that of a goddess. But the aura surrounding her body was completely different. At present, Aisi seemed to be blending with nature, full of peace. There was even a hint of intimacy. In the past, this would never happen to a girl who only had revenge in her heart. It was not that her obsession had disappeared, but it had long been transformed into a purer belief and fighting spirit. Gradually regaining her own emotions, the soft sword princess became sharper. The soft heart, the sharp sword. Well, you said don't overtrain. Hearing the boy's words, a faint smile appeared on Aici's smooth cheeks unconsciously, which was extremely stunning. At the same time, she repeated the warnings that Sioran gave her when she was teaching her. At this moment, she looked so cute when she was too serious. The other members of the Loki family were amazed, because they rarely saw Aisi like this. Yes, that's good. You can clearly feel your recent growth. Noticing the obvious changes in the girl, Sioran was very pleased. Correcting a stubborn sword princess is not easy. That is something that Livalaya and the others have spent years trying to change but have not been able to do. Fortunately, Aisi now understands something other than revenge. When the loss is irreversible, what should be considered is the remaining existence. It is not about abandoning the unbearable past, but the determination to move forward. Now Aisi can truly be called a sword princess, and before she was more of a sword. Well, my body has become very light now, and I can see more things. But why? Aisi confirmed what the boy said, but she was obviously confused. No, to be exact. It was more like she already knew the answer to the question, but she couldn't write it based on her current understanding. The girl who had frozen her emotions for too long could only express her current inner feelings so clumsily. Looking at her apprentice's slightly naive appearance, Sioran felt very happy. The process of soaking in pure white really makes people enjoy it. Then, Sioran gently stroked the girl's smooth hair and did not answer her question directly. You can solve this doubt yourself in the future. I am looking forward to that day. I know. Hearing this, Aisi nodded and did not ask any more questions. That's good. As long as he said it, she was willing to believe it. Because he is my hero. The girl subconsciously put her hand on her chest, where a soothing warmth was flowing. She could feel a strange peace in just a simple communication. Just like a ship that has traveled a long way and returned to its harbor, peaceful and natural. Then, the girls of the two clan flags exchanged with each other for a while and chose to enter. Livalaya and Sioran each led their clan members to Deadless Road. Wow Sword Princess, Big Severing, Angry Snake and 9 Demon Princess. $355. Stupid, look at the side. Hero. As soon as Sioran and Livalaya entered the maze street, ordinary people living around them poked their heads out. In a blink of an eye, the peace of the past here was broken, and only the heated noise remained. Regardless of gender, age, or status, all eyes were focused on the young man and woman who arrived at Deadless Road. One side was the strongest faction standing at the top of the city. One side was undoubtedly the strongest. Heroes. Such a luxurious lineup was enough to attract everyone's attention. What a big difference. Ignoring the heated gazes around, Sioran was also looking at the residents living in Deadless Road. Their clothes were obviously inferior to those of the rest of the people in the maze city streets. Most of them were unkempt, which was completely the other extreme compared to the prosperity and luxury. Therefore, Deadless Road also has another title, slums. Most of the people living here are ordinary residents, and their lives are relatively poor. The core of Orario is adventurers, and the status of ordinary people is relatively low, which has become an indisputable fact. Of course, sometimes there are also cases where downtrodden adventurers or families drift here. Therefore, the security in this area has always been not very good, and there are often gangsters and hooligans. It is a relatively chaotic place in the Mystery City. Therefore, Alish often patrols here to uphold their own justice and order. The structure here is really complicated, I can't remember it at all. Yamato and Hei were already confused by the crisscrossing branches around them. They came to this area for the first time. Deadless Road made them feel that the environment here was more exaggerated than some floors in the underground maze. It was connected in all directions and dazzling. Lila has only heard of it, no wonder someone got lost here. Even the little human girl who acted as the commander was a little overwhelmed at this time. The complexity of Deadless Road was completely beyond their imagination. It seemed that between the dragon pot lost in the depths, the company set a problem. Livalaya, let's start from here and investigate separately. A rough scan of the complex terrain around. In order to improve the efficiency of the investigation, Sioran decided to temporarily separate from the Loki clan. Facing such a complicated road, too many people gathering would affect the progress. It is better to just separate. We think the same, Sioran. Then we will each be responsible for exploring a direction from here. Livalaya also knew that the efficiency would be higher if they separated, so she naturally agreed to the boy's suggestion. Then, the members of the two clans dispersed here. Zhu Jizangzhou went to the side to check. 0141095115 Filu 1445432121 Sioran led his girl to continue walking forward. Soon, a slightly spacious square appeared in front of them. In front of the fountain in the square, there stood an old god, and a dense crowd gathered in front of her. At present, the old god held food and wine bottles in his hands, and the corners of his mouth were stained with food crumbs. The clothes on his body were extremely sloppy, without any temperament of a god. If the nature of the god was not too obvious, no one would have regarded her as a god. However, compared with the rough attire of the old god, another point that Sioran was more concerned about was the breadth of poverty. Chapter 122, Sewer Rats. A group of residents in simple clothes gathered in the square of Deadless Road. Similar to the clothes they wore. An old god with a sloppy appearance was standing at the front of the crowd, muttering something. Master Sioran, that master is a god. Seeing this slightly strange scene, Fulvice beside him frowned slightly. Most elves who love nature have a certain degree of cleanliness in their bodies and minds. Always keep yourself and the surrounding environment clean, the girl always does this when she is in the family. Therefore, when she saw the old god with such a sloppy appearance, Fulvice had a little resistance. If it weren't for the unique sense of existence emanating from the other party, she would never have thought that it would be a god. Even though there are many gods with strange personalities and hobbies in Orario. But this one in front of her is not the first time she has met him. I heard Hestia mention her name. Our Lord God has something in common with her. Anyway, let's go over and take a look. While answering Fearwazy, Sioran also led the girls forward. Hey, over there, give me all your savings. Oh! What a rare guest, a famous hero would also come to the poor area. When Sioran and the others came over, the old god did not look up at first. Until she felt that the atmosphere around her was a little bit wrong. She looked at the figure approaching here strangely. The crowd that was crowded before has now automatically separated a passage. The people who originally listened to her divine will now turn their eyes to the young man walking behind. No matter his extremely handsome appearance or the temperament surrounding him. It is enough to become the focus of everyone's attention here. Although the old god has always lived in this slum, he also knows the information of the Maze City. So at this moment, he sighed with a little surprise. She never thought that a top adventurer like Hero would come to Deadless Road. Nice to meet you, God Penia. Our main god has mentioned you. Facing the old god's surprise, Sioran smiled gently and didn't care. The old god in front of her is called Penia. The priesthood she is in charge of is poverty. She and her own goddess girl are considered famous poor gods in heaven. Therefore, Hestia once mentioned the old gods who were in a similar situation to her. Because of her own priesthood, Pernia believed that wealth would corrupt the spirit and soul, and that affluence would take away physical labor. This would cause the people in the lower world to lose their enthusiasm for production and thus fall into a negative state. In her philosophy, 243 poverty is the panacea for purifying the people and the gods, and the foundation for redeeming the soul. When she was in heaven, she often robbed the other gods of their savings from their palaces. Therefore, when the gods met Pernia, they would say something like Pernia bacteria is here again. Now, after the gods descended to the lower world, they basically regarded Daedalus Road as their base camp. Here they spread their divine will. The people who believe in the old gods here will take the initiative to offer all their savings to help the poor in Daedalus Road. Pernia did not grant them any favors, but gained the people's faith purely with her own philosophy. As a result, an organization that is neither a clan nor a clan appeared in the slums. However, due to her existence, the economic activities in the slums formed a special cycle. The old god became the core of this balance. This is also one of the reasons why she was not regarded as a fraudster. After all, she is not greedy for the property of her people, but just distributes it more effectively. Similar to the role of the market, it regulates the operation of this area. So, God of poverty Penia is the master of Daedalus Road in a sense. He has a very high reputation here and is trusted by many residents in the slums. Sioran also knew this, so he approached this old god on purpose. When it comes to the ability to grasp the information of the Daedalus Road area, I am afraid that no one can surpass the poor formation in front of him. Hestia, she is the only one who will not look down on me, a poor god. Hearing the boy's words, Pernia thought of the hearth god in heaven who was in a similar situation to her. That virgin goddess was one of the very few gods who did not discriminate against her. By the way, I heard that the goddess Pernia stayed in Daedalus Road for a long time. I just want to ask something, can you please tell me? Seeing the old god who seemed to be in a state of reminiscence, Sioran interrupted directly. Well, I guess so. Although it was just a moment for me, it should have been several centuries according to the children's standards. Hero, what do you want to ask? Penia, whose thoughts were interrupted by the boy, answered nonchalantly. The numbers that came out of her mouth made the girls behind Sioran's eyes jump slightly. From the perspective of the gods, hundreds of years are indeed just a moment. Compared to their long lives, centuries of time are just a short rest. Does God Penia have any impression of the man in this portrait? While speaking, Sioran took out a portrait that Livalia had handed to him earlier. It depicted a gloomy man with a very ordinary appearance. It was probably the kind of man that no one would look at twice if thrown into a crowd. This was the information that Loki had investigated in the previous Port City incident. By following the clues of the man-eating plant there, they finally locked on the main god of fishing in Milan. The male god that Loki knew in the heavens made a deal with the man on the paper. The male god who didn't want to see his followers attacked by monsters chose to cooperate with him. In the end, they got the props to disperse the monsters from the man. And as the price of the deal, part of the income of Port City fisheries would be transferred to the other party. Loki suspected that the man in the portrait was one of the masterminds who triggered the monster festival and subsequent events. So in this investigation, she asked her followers to pay attention to digging out the man's true identity. Livlia naturally shared this information with Sioran. I don't know this person, I don't have any impression of him at all. Penia didn't hesitate at all, just glanced and answered cheerfully. Really dash. Excuse me, God Penia. Sioran withdrew his gaze from the old god and said goodbye to her in a gentle tone. Lord Sioran, if the old god doesn't know, is our investigation over? From what you said before, God Penia is the god with the most information here. After leaving the square where everyone gathered, Fei Zhang couldn't help asking. Who knows? Maybe Penia really doesn't know, or maybe there is a connection between them. Xiaoran didn't say the rest of the guesses. Anyway, these didn't affect him. He came here to kill time, and by the way, see if he could understand some of the conditions of the underground maze. Although there was only a brief conversation just now, but Xiaoran could still sense what the poor god was trying to hide. Now he couldn't see through the will of God directly, but it was not difficult to tell whether the other party was lying. Penia had obviously hidden something before, but I don't know what her purpose is. Xiaoran was not interested in exploring this point, as his current target was not the gods. No matter what means the other party had, it could not pose a threat to him. He chose not to delve into it, just to treat it as a spice of life. It was also one of his pleasures to destroy the trump card that the mouse in the dark was proud of. After all, he was essentially a fun person. On the other side, after separating from Xiaoran and the others, the Loki Familia, which had more members, split up the team again. One team was led by Livalia, and most of the team members were low-level members. The other team was led by Isai and the Amazon twins, with the remaining core members. Afterwards, the Loki Familia, who had completed the team assignment, continued to explore in depth. It's so annoying. Why do we have to separate from Xiaoran and the others? Not long after searching, Dione kicked the stones under her feet in anger. Affected by the complex terrain around her, and the partner she had identified was not around. The proud hero gradually couldn't suppress the depression in his heart, and inexplicable irritability accumulated in his chest. A hint of obvious impatience rose on his resolute face, and he was no longer gentle as before. That's right. Isn't it fun to explore with the Argonauts? Hearing her sister's complaints, Dione also felt a little regretful, because she really liked to be with Xiaoran. There was some incredible magic around the boy, which made everyone feel at ease. Tiona, Shen. Ace responded briefly. Although she agreed with her companions, in fact, it was best to explore separately. I know. Glanced at the serious look on the girl's face, the twins looked at each other and answered helplessly. Then the team continued to move forward. Isn't this completely lost? Soon, the Amazon twins said in a frustrated tone when they found that they had returned to the starting point. They noticed that the buildings around them were the ones they had passed before. After walking for a long time, they were just standing still. Unknowingly, they had fallen into the spider web. I can't recognize the direction at all. Tiona leaned against the stone pillar beside her and planned to give up. She would rather fight the monsters in the maze than continue to investigate this area. Each independent road of Deadless Road has countless branches extending out. Its complexity completely broke everyone's cognition, and it was impossible to find the correct direction at all times. There is a healer girl named Liney in the team led by AISI. She is one of the members who is usually responsible for drawing maps in the underground maze. The girl has excellent talent in this area, and she has tried to draw maps before. As the team marched, they also wrote down the route they took. However, when they were only halfway through drawing, Liney looked at AISI and the others with tears in her eyes. I can't do it anymore. The crisscrossing branches of Deadless Road completely defeated the girl. Even though she often made maps in the family, it was difficult for her to accurately record the appearance of this area. In the end, AISI and the others had no choice but to choose to return along the original route. Just as Xiaoran and the female members of the Loki family were investigating Deadless Road, the male team led by Finn was conducting an in-depth exploration in the underground waterway in the south of the city. In the dim passage, Finn and his team stepped into the southeast area of Deadless Road from the south of the city. During the march, the werewolf leading the way suddenly stopped. "Bird, what's wrong?" Seeing this, the leader of the dwarf tribe was slightly puzzled. "It smells like a piranha plant." Hearing Bert's answer, Finn's expression became extremely serious. At the same time, he subconsciously thought in his mind, "The piranha plant is a monster that was specially tamed by the guys who wanted to destroy the order of the maze city in the dark. The fact that it appeared here means that Deadless Road is indeed connected to the underground maze." Then, considering the possible unexpected situation, Finn immediately commanded the team to change the formation and advance with the first-level adventurer as the vanguard. After a while, when the group walked to the dead end, they found a newly opened step on the floor. Hidden stairs. There was a large stone slab on the steps in front of the team, which was obviously used to cover the entrance. The width of this hidden step was enough for the piranha plant to enter and exit freely. "Tisk, there was no shadow when I came here before. Now it suddenly appears." Werewolf Bert was unhappy and shocked, with obvious vigilance in his tone. Not long after the Monster Festival incident, he followed his own willful Lord God to explore here. At that time, except for finding a few piranha plants, there were no other traces. However, now, a hidden step suddenly appeared in the place that should have been a dead end. It is hard not to guarantee that this is a trap set by the enemy on purpose. Finn naturally understood what Bert meant, but at this moment, there was no tingling sensation in his thumb. So he decided to continue to explore down the stairs. The crowd walked silently along a stone-cast passage that was completely different from the underground waterway. Soon, the team arrived at the end of the hidden stairs. In front of them was a door more than 3 meters high, emitting a metallic luster. In the middle of the door, there was also a red gem inlaid. Such a strange scene was hidden in the dark underground waterway. Finn and the others stared at the mysterious door for a long time, silent. "It's quite a big deal, Mountain Copper." The next day, Fengran and the girls of the banner came to the mysterious Yinmen. Yesterday, he and Livalia's investigation did not find any clues. It is almost impossible for adventurers to figure out the structure of Deadless Road. Of course, Sioran is obviously not one of them. If he wants, except for the power of the world level, the rest cannot be hidden in front of him. He did not choose to directly dismantle the truth of Deadless Road, but he just happened to have some interest at the moment. After all, he was just in a boredom gap after devouring the 2 gods. If he directly revealed everything on the back of the maze, there would be no fun later. Before completing the analysis of the underground maze, Sioran was still willing to continue with them for a while. He hoped that they could bring him some fun, so he didn't delve too much. Later, after learning about Finn's information, he took the opportunity to come here with his girls. Seeing the current scene, the metal door in front of him was all made of mountain copper. It is the highest grade metal in the world, and AIC's Sword of Despair was made of it. Its strength exceeds the super hard metal mined from the underground maze hard steel. It has to be said that using it to build such a door can be called rich and powerful. This door made of mountain copper is generally not destroyable by anyone. Except for a certain bug and an adventurer with particularly exaggerated strength and durability. The door made of rare materials in front of him at least shows 2 points. First, there is definitely an important enemy base behind this door. Secondly, these guys hiding in the dark have a strong ability to make money or have received a lot of funding. Did they deliberately lure us here? Livalia calmly analyzed the information she had obtained so far. The other party deliberately sprinkled odorizer at the entrance to attract orcs like Werewolf Bert to explore. It seems that they are planning to lure them all here, so confident. Since others have sincerely invited us, let's go and take a look. In fact, I am also very curious about what kind of confidence these rats hiding in the sewers have. Hearing the whispers of the royal elves, Sioran smiled indifferently, not caring at all whether it was a trap. I just hope that this exploration journey will not be so boring. Chapter 123 Can you bear it? You are so good, Sioran. Hearing the boy's light-hearted teasing, Finn smiled bitterly. To be honest, the unknown mountain bronze door in front of them brought them a lot of pressure. It was obviously specially prepared for them by the other party. Facing the joint investigation of the two top factions in Orario, they dared to reveal the flaws so openly. It means that the other party must have a very confident trump card. Finn, who knew this, felt a little gloomy in his heart. This can be regarded as a conspiracy made by the enemy hiding in the dark. Knowing that they have always maintained the stability of the Maze City, they will never allow such a threatening and uncertain existence. Therefore, even though he knew that the trap in front of him was carefully arranged by the other party, Finn was ready to take the members of the family to find out. Don't look like that, Finn. I am quite looking forward to the tragedy that the other party is about to stage. The slightly solemn atmosphere in the field suddenly disappeared in Sioran's frivolous voice. Although his tone sounded extremely casual, as if it was a daily chat. But the confidence and calmness contained in it made everyone present feel sincerely at ease. No matter what means the enemy in the shadows hides, it will become an absurd drama. In front of the will shown by the hero, all the current negative emotions seem extremely small. It's really you, Sioran. The leader of the dwarf tribe sighed from the bottom of his heart. Even though they have been together for a long time, he is still often amazed by the boy's spirit. He is usually calm like this, not to mention the opposite S*X members of the clan. Thinking of this, Finn subconsciously looked at his companions in the team. As expected. It's not just the first-level adventurers like Aisi and Dione. Like Lefia and Angel, they also stared at the black-haired boy in front of the team with burning eyes. There was no trace of the previous nervousness left. I was completely defeated by him. The brave man expressed his sincere admiration for the hero in his heart. EXT. Just as Fearwazy was muttering. As if responding to her words, the mountain bronze door suddenly opened slowly. The deep passage behind the door came into everyone's sight, and it was filled with magic stone lamps emitting blue fluorescence. The hazy halo was tinged with a hint of chill, extending deep into the depths. It was like a beast that devoured people, and it did not hide the deep malice in it at all. I'm here. The other party's meaning couldn't be more obvious. Oh? You are really brave. Can you bear it, huh? Seeing this scene, the corners of his mouth suddenly raised a playful smile, and his eyes were full of coldness that froze everything. The enemy in the shadow seemed to have the means to monitor the outside. It seemed that he was worried that they would not dare to go in. Directly choose to open this door made of the hardest metal, deliberately provoking. It's not okay to be looked down upon to this extent. Hearing this, without any hesitation, the leader of the dwarf tribe made a decision happily. Finn asked Livalia to lead some members to stay here and act as logistics. If any accident happened in it, emergency assistance could also be provided. He and Sioran led the way and walked into the deep passage in front of them. Unexpectedly, the initial section of the road that Sioran and his team were walking on was very peaceful. There were no human figures or monsters, only a heart-pounding chill and darkness. But as the team went deeper, the current road began to become complicated. Like the Deadless Road, there were dazzling forks all around. It formed a complex man-made maze. Finn, leave those little guys behind. There is a stench that makes me uncomfortable. The little guys are too much of a nuisance here. The werewolf in front of the team sensed the approach of some danger. He thought that the lower-level members of the clan should be allowed to retreat now. They are now in an unknown area and it is impossible to take care of those members completely. If they are not careful, someone will definitely die. No, keep it like this for now. Finn understood Bert's intentions, but still rejected his proposal. The team has been traveling for quite a while. If the lower-level members are allowed to evacuate at this time, they may really be in danger. However, even though he thought so, he also had a bad intuition. As if to confirm Finn's thoughts, the thumb of his right hand was aching slightly, and the pain was very similar to the feeling when exploring deep underground mazes. Please be careful next. Due to his own intuition and the cheating tips, Finn began to concentrate. Later, when he encountered complex forks during the exploration, he would send professional scouts to investigate. Sioran did not interfere with the decision of the leader of the dwarf tribe. The core commander of this team was Finn. He just brought his own girl here to kill time. No matter how powerful the rats in the dark prepared, they were not worth mentioning in front of him. Therefore, he was more like sightseeing than exploration. Similar to the mentality of the first exploration of the underground maze before, it was just a pastime. Influenced by Sioran, Fearwazy was not too worried. It was just that due to the excellent five senses that had been cultivated for a long time, she was vaguely alert to the surroundings. Next, as the team continued to eliminate dead-end passages, they were approaching the depths of the enemy's stronghold. So straightforward. Soon, Sioran and his team came to a mountain intersection. There were 3 stairs leading down in front of them, no longer the complicated forks before. The 3 stone stairs led to unknown depths, which were not accessible to scouts. This meant that the team would inevitably disperse here. Facing the malicious fork in the road ahead, Sioran was not surprised at all. Since the other party dared to bring them all in, it was impossible for them to stay together. After all, the team now had an astonishing number of first-level adventurers. No matter how confident the guy in the dark was, he would not be so arrogant. So separation was inevitable. The 3 stairs that appeared at the moment were obviously the means to achieve their intentions. The enemy once again used a naked conspiracy, and they were determined not to give up exploring every road. It seems that they are completely passive, so let's do as they wish. Finn, who also realized this, suppressed the uneasiness that was faintly rising in his heart. Finally, after discussing with Sioran for a while, they decided to start their own exploration here. Sioran led the girls of Hestia's family as a team and took the leftmost route. Finn divided the members of Loki's family into 2 teams. He and the werewolf bird led the team, and the elf girls Lefia, Rahul, and others formed a team, which was the middle route. The rest were led by Grace, Aisi, and the Amazon twins. Their team was equipped with the most first-level adventurers, because the low-level members who needed to be taken care of were basically concentrated here. Aisi and the others would take the rightmost route. After completing the distribution, the 3 teams continued to move forward to the passages they chose. Lord Sioran, the atmosphere here seems to be colder than the underground maze. Feeling the chill coming from all over her body, Fearwazy couldn't help but speak. She didn't feel uncomfortable about it, but she just felt something was wrong. The feeling here was worse than the previous fights with monsters in the maze. There was an inexplicable weirdness. Of course, the underground maze is alive after all, and this is just a dead thing. It's a man-made thing. Sensing the doubt in the elf girl's words, Sioran smiled at her softly. Just as he said. The underground maze has its own will. Although not completely, it does belong to life. Sioran can feel a beating similar to a pulse inside. That is proof of being alive. But the environment they are in now is fundamentally different. All around are made of metal. The gate made of the highest grade metal mountain copper and the walls mixed with the super hard alloy hard steel. It is obviously built by humans and belongs to the category of dead things. Except for some similar terrain structures, the rest are completely different. It is a man-made object without soul, and it cannot be compared with the underground city with chaos and magnificent beauty. The only thing that can be felt here is the chilling cold. There is not even a trace of wind in the passage, which shows its closedness. The statues around here also give me an uncomfortable feeling. Yamato looked at the carefully carved stone statues around him and couldn't help but tighten his body. Although from the artistic level, the other party constructed it very well. Even Yamato, who does not have this talent, can understand the exquisiteness of the statue. But in terms of the intuition it gives her, it is not a good thing. Especially the flowers planted on the statue. Well, just treat it as a visit. Looking at the intensity of this project, they should have spent a long time to build this maze. Jiuran looked around with interest. Occasionally his eyes stayed on the orbs on the wall or the flowers on the statues. At the same time, he was sure that the artificial maze they were in could not be built overnight. Whether it was the astonishing amount of rare metals around or the various reliefs. They were definitely not something that could be made in a short time, and they did not have the power of gods. They could only rely on years of artificial accumulation. However, what was the meaning of those guys building this artificial maze? Sioran suddenly became curious about the purpose of the other party. For him, it was a small matter that could be easily accomplished. For adventurers, it was a huge project that could be called a miracle. The builders of the maze obviously put a lot of effort into it. Sioran felt a kind of obsession from it, a kind of paranoia that had accumulated for a long time. While Sioran was talking to his own girl, the Loki family was also observing the terrain in the passage. Finn also made the same judgment as Sioran. Just as the leader of the dwarf tribe was comparing the underground maze with the environment here in his mind. The members of the team let out a low cry. What a big space! Unknowingly, the team led by Finn had walked into an open space, which was spacious enough to accommodate dozens of adventurers. In contrast to the slightly narrow passage before, it reached the size of a banquet hall. It seems like a cave in the maze. The Catman Ankai expressed the thoughts of everyone present. In front of them was a side length of at least. The square space is several dozen meters long, with orichalcum doors made of the hardest metal on both sides. There is a passageway on the stairs leading up, which is about several meters above the ground. The ears of the members of Finn's team with keen hearing suddenly moved. There was a sudden sound of footsteps in the passageway in front of them. Finn N. A high-frequency female voice suddenly sounded in the space. Its harsh volume made many people cover their ears. Soon, a woman in combat uniform appeared in front of everyone. 0. You are still alive, Wada. Seeing the familiar face, the leader of the dwarf tribe narrowed his eyes slightly, and he naturally knew the identity of the person in front of him. Valletta Gray, one of the main cotters of the Dark faction. 15 years ago, the Zeus family and the Hera family failed to defeat the one-eyed black dragon. The Maze City thus entered the Dark period. Valletta Gray was one of the most active members of the Dark faction during that period. Together with the white-haired ghost Olivas and others, they created the nightmare of the 27th floor. Valletta and others deliberately set a trap to lure members of various clans into the 27th floor. Then, relying on the monster gift, they lured many monsters in the floor, including the floor master. They tried to bury all the adventurers who participated in that battle. Their targets originally included the Brave and others of the Loki clan. But Finn, who realized that it was a trap, decisively chose to attack the base of the Dark faction. At that time, Valletta and others concentrated the main combat power of the Dark faction in the underground maze. There were not many powerful senior adventurers in the faction headquarters. Finn knew clearly that it would be too late even if he went to the 27th floor to rescue people. Therefore, he decided to directly destroy the Dark faction headquarters where the main cotters were not there. Finally, by joining forces with other clans with the same beliefs in the Maze City, successfully sent many evil gods leading the Dark faction back to heaven. It was this decisive victory that laid the foundation for the future peace in the Labyrinth City. For the remaining members of the Dark faction, the hero is the one they love the most. When their main god was sent back to heaven, the Dark faction members in the underground labyrinth, the grace behind them was directly sealed. Unable to face the pursuit of monsters. The remaining fear at that time is still engraved in Valletta's heart. Finn. I will cut off your hands and feet, smash your stinky face, and abuse you wantonly. Valletta did not hide the malice in his heart. His face was constantly distorted by hatred, and the members of Loki's family frowned slightly. The woman in front of him was like a crazy beast at the moment, and her pupils reflected perverted madness. Ha 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 ha, that's right. Don't think that the hero can come to save you. Looking at that extremely disgusting calm smile, Valletta seemed to remember something and said. She wanted to tear apart the composure of the hero and make him cry in front of her. Only by showing the most unbearable appearance can she satisfy her morbid sense of revenge. You said something very interesting. Finn felt a kind of confidence in Valletta's tone, which was very strange. Facing the hero who is now standing on the peak that no one has ever reached in the past. The remnants of the dark faction in front of him actually still have such confidence. Sioran, mysterious confidence, I am familiar with this. Even the leader of the dwarf tribe, who has always been wise, was slightly confused at this time. Of course, he was not worried about the strength of the hero. He just cared about where the confidence of the remnants of the dark faction came from. P.S. Department dinner, I have waited until now to code a chapter. Broad. Chapter 124 Deadly Threat. Valletta, Unknown Man-Made Maze. Through the previous brief communication, Finn has already started a brainstorming. He is thinking about what the enemy's confident trump card is. It can actually make Valletta not care about Sioran exploring here with them. We have prepared a huge surprise for the hero. As for you Finn, let me treat you well. As if seeing through the contemplation of the leader of the dwarf tribe, Valletta's face showed a hideous smile. As soon as her voice fell, the doors on both sides of the square space suddenly opened. Squeaky. Accompanied by a harsh friction sound, a large number of carnivorous plants drilled out from inside. At the same time, a huge mountain copper door fell at the entrance of the passage behind Finn. In an instant, the position of the team directly turned into a colorful sea of monsters. The retreat was cut off by the enemy, and bloodthirsty monsters continued to appear in the left and right passages. The enemy's carefully prepared trap was revealed here. All members move forward. Quickly judged the current situation. The leader of the dwarf tribe decisively issued an order and directed the team members to the only exit. The passages on both sides of the hall have become a paradise for monsters, and the mountain bronze door at the back is blocked by the hardest metal. Now they have no choice but to leave this place towards the passage where Valletta is. Yes. Hearing Finn's arrangement. The long-term trust made all members of the Loki family have no hesitation. Follow the path opened by their leader with a spear. Between the field. The encirclement formed by the carnivorous plant was torn apart by the spear of the brave man with an unstoppable force. However, as the team continued to move forward, monsters began to appear in the back. No matter how brave Finn was, he could not take care of all the members. After all, there were only two first-level adventurers, Finn and Bird, in the current team. They were all opening up the road in front, and they had no spare energy to deal with the offensive in the back. The core members of the team were 4.4, and the rest were mostly 4.3. Faced with the monster's tidal attack, they, who were relatively low in level, naturally felt exhausted. Captain, you go first. Sensing that the team's pace was slowed down, Leffia chose to stay. Although her adventurer level was only 4.3, her magic bombardment power was no less than that of the first-level adventurer of 4.5. And when she was in the Dusk Pavilion, Sioran had taught her the technique of parallel chanting. Therefore, the elf girl chose to stay alone at this moment. This was not a will to sacrifice, but Leffia's confidence after growing up. She hoped to walk side by side with the hero, so how could she be willing to stop here? Please. Without too many words, Finn already understood the determination of the elf girl. Then he twisted the spear in his hand and threw it straight ahead. The atmosphere made a torn cry. The spear kept spinning due to the huge force, and a storm was set off in the field. Go! Seeing the battlefield in front of him being cleared for a short time, Finn shouted loudly and quickened his pace. Release a beam of light, the bow of the holy wood. You are a master of archery. At the same time, a shining magic circle also rose under the feet of Lefi Ya, who was responsible for the rear guard. Along with the weaving of the girl's soft singing, magic power kept gathering in the space. Pure white light soon spread all over the battlefield, and a horrified atmosphere gradually spread. Spiritual bow light arrow. The moment the chanting ended, the magic power instantly turned into a light arrow that people dared not look directly at, locking the enemy identified by it in the air. Then, accompanied by a flash of strong light, all the monsters in the rear passage were wiped out by the rain of arrows. There was nothing else on the ground except magic stones of different sizes. Lefi Ya, who had been tempered by the expedition journey. Her current attainments in magic have obviously become more profound. The royal elves are now gradually training her to be their successor. Coupled with Sioran's deliberate guidance, the girl now has a clear tendency to be independent and no longer lacks confidence as before. Taking advantage of the gap when her magic temporarily cleared the field, Lefi Ya took a deep breath. Then she rushed directly to the team. While running, the girl's white fingers tightly grasped the staff on her chest. The corners of her tender lips unconsciously raised an arc. Am I getting closer to you? However, after Finn carefully checked, the 6 vertical monsters around him looked more like unfinished semi-finished products. At a glance, it was full of deep darkness, and there was no end in sight. In addition, since entering this path, an astonishing number of new monsters have appeared around the team. They are small in size, have 6 legs, and do not look very threatening. But they all move in groups, and the dense number makes people's scalps numb. The space is filled with the sound of their crawling, which is as harsh as scratching glass. Fortunately, the harm they bring is not strong, and the lower level members of the team are enough to deal with it. That's it. Finn and his companions walked here cautiously. Although everything went well along the way, the feeling of uneasiness in his heart became stronger after meeting Valletta. Tad. The team came to a huge crossroads. However, just after arriving here for a while, the thumb of the leader of the dwarf tribe began to twitch violently. The unprecedented pain came from his right hand, gradually paralyzing the nerves of the body. It was even more exaggerated than encountering the fallen immortal spirit clone on the 59th floor. Finn's uneasiness reached its peak, and a fatal threat was quietly approaching. Chapter 125, Please me as much as you can. Struggle desperately, the brave man of the dwarfs thought. Let me see you in a more miserable state, ha 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 ha. The malicious voice sounded again. At the same time, a red light flashed in the dark passage around. Just like when I first stepped into this place, this was the heavy tone of the door opening. The moment the mountain bronze door opened, the rain-like murderous intent directly overturned. It was freezing cold and sharp. Compared to what they saw, Finn and the others first felt the pain coming from their skin. As if they were pierced by a silver needle, their bodies subconsciously paused all actions. The beast hidden in the depths has been released. Red hair more beautiful than blood. The extremely cold green eyes did not show a trace of human warmth. He held a dark and ominous strange sword in his hand. The obscure breath entangled the surface of the sword and kept flowing. The monster who attacked Aisi and the others appeared here again, but his momentum was not comparable to that of the past. Just standing there, the members of the Loki family felt an unimaginable pressure. Even Finn, who reached 4.6, felt suffocated at this moment. Very strong. Far stronger than imagined. How many magic stones did she swallow? She is really a terrible enhanced species. Finn has never felt such a deadly murderous intent, and the air seems to be frozen by it at this moment. As one of the top adventurers in Orario, he has dealt with many first-level adventurers. The Black and White Elves, Catman Wars, etc. of Freya's family have never brought him such great pressure. This exaggerated momentum, Finn has only seen in fierce men. However, compared with Oda's heavy and steady, the monster in front of him is more like a bloody giant blade. He does not hide the coldness and cruelty deep in his heart, just like a beast. As for the hero, the gap between the two sides is too big, and Finn can't judge the strength of the boy at all. But there was only one thing he was sure of. Even the beast in front of him could not be the opponent of the hero. However, it was a big crisis for him. Ignoring the pain in his thumb, Finn became particularly serious. The enemy on the other side was obviously someone he had to fight with all his strength, and he could not be distracted. Otherwise, they would all die here. My enemy is you. The little people. The cold voice of the weirdo made Lefia and the others feel a chill in their hearts. The temperature of the air dropped a few degrees at this moment, and the heart-pounding cold began to spread. At the same time as the voice sounded, the dark sword had already slashed towards Finn head-on. A fierce battle took place here in an instant, and the space was filled with the sound of golden swords clashing. Bang! What a strong force, Grace might not even be able to match her. In the first round of confrontation, Finn knew the tip of the iceberg of his opponent's strength. Not only the speed, the strength of the monster in front of him was also outstanding. In the next few short rounds of confrontation, his arms were shaking uncontrollably. In terms of strength, he was completely restrained by the opponent and it was difficult for him to not win. Don't think too much, you will die here soon. The black sword, as cold as the voice, came in an instant. Crack, crack, crack. With his excellent awareness, Finn dodged the opponent's powerful attack. The ground took the blow for him. The originally smooth surface was now torn open by the monster with a huge scar. The enemy's terrifying strength made the other members of the Loki family tremble. It's not over yet. The black flash that tore through the atmosphere attacked again, leaving no chance for the leader of the dwarf tribe to breathe. The brave man who had been advancing triumphantly in the past gradually fell into decline under the fierce attack of the monster. Fortunately, the opponent's proficiency in skills was obviously not enough. Therefore, he was able to temporarily resist with his own superb skills. However, this could not last long, and the basic ability of the monster in front of him was completely superior to his own. The gap was too big, and he had to use magic hell fangs. Facing an enemy who was exaggerated in all aspects, Finn only thought of this method. Now he has been completely suppressed by the opponent. According to this trend, defeat is a foregone conclusion. Only by using the frenzy enhancement skills can he have the opportunity to turn the balance of the battlefield. However, this magic will make him lose all his sanity. Considering the danger the team is in now. Without his wisdom and judgment, I am afraid that the members of the family will definitely be lost. Therefore, Finn is in a dilemma at this moment. You dare to be distracted while fighting with me, you are really looking for death, little people. Unfortunately, the opponent did not give Finn any chance to hesitate. The monster, who already had an absolute advantage in strength, seized the moment of the brave man's split. The ominous big sword was swung in a weird way and hit the opponent's chest. Crack! The spear of courage that the leader of the little people was proud of was cut off by him. The bright red liquid continued to sprinkle into the air, splashing blood rain like a fountain. The protective gear on Finn's body was directly cracked, and a terrible scar appeared. Brave, defeated. Leader. The heart-wrenching screams kept ringing, and the rest of the members of the Loki family were all unbelievable. The heroic figure who stood in front of them in the past, now fell down. The dazzling red color obscured the vision of everyone present, leaving only the absurd feeling as if in a dream. They really couldn't believe that their leader would be defeated here. The courage that guided the race forward has long become the direction of the clan. The only ones who kept some reason were Lefia and Rahul. The former has become quite mature and tough in mind after Sioran's teaching. No matter how desperate it is, it can't shake it completely. The courage gained from the hero cannot be erased by the despair in front of him. The latter has been following the hero for a long time and has learned a lot. As one of the few adventurers in Loki's clan who survived the Dark Age. Even in the face of such a nightmare scene, Rahul can still maintain a trace of clarity. Rahul! The fallen hero shouted with all his strength, as if he wanted to convey something. Spiritual bow light arrow. As if responding to the leader's voice, Lefia instantly completed the super short chant. The bow and arrow condensed with light blocked the monster's further actions. It was temporarily unable to launch another attack. Seeing this, Rahul, who had been strictly taught all the knowledge and experience by the leader, narrowed his pupils. Then he took advantage of the gap created by the elf girl and rushed over at a very fast speed. He immediately picked up Finn, who had fallen to the ground, and then jumped into the surrounding vertical holes. The monsters on the opposite side were obviously not something they could deal with. In this situation, only the vertical holes around them that could not see the way out had a glimmer of hope. They were obviously unfinished semi-finished products, and perhaps the enemy could not fully detect them. With this idea in mind, Rahul made a decisive decision. Then, the rest of the members of the Loki family who had reacted followed. The only one who remained on the scene was Bird, the werewolf whose heart was burned by anger. The speed of the previous battlefield situation change was completely beyond his imagination. He originally wanted to participate in the battle against the monsters, but Finn stopped him. Although he did not say much, Bird also understood what his leader meant. Finn was worried that Valletta, who was hiding in the dark, would attack the other members. Therefore, a first-level adventurer must be left behind to deal with this unexpected situation. Bird, who is good at speed, obviously meets this requirement, so Finn did not allow him to participate in the battle. However, the calm and wise brave man did not expect the enemy to be so powerful. It was just a few rounds. The moment he was distracted, the balance of the battlefield directly fell to the opponent. It was so fast that Bird could not react. When he came to his senses, he only saw a small figure covered in bright red. A similar scene seemed to be presented in front of him again, and the heart-wrenching anger burned Bird's reason to ashes. The same powerlessness, the same unbearable. The tattoo with scars on his face continued to hurt, and the fierce killing intent continued to accumulate in the werewolf's eyes. The beast showed his fangs that had been sharpened for many years, vowing to bite and kill the enemy in front of him. Ha 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 ha, you will also have a day to escape in a mess, Finn. You are really a great bodyguard. Seeing the situation in the field, Valletta, who had been hiding in the dark, finally showed up with a perverted and twisted smile on her face. She looked at the vertical hole that Rahul and the others had jumped into earlier. I'm going to Arya's place. You can handle the rest by yourself. The red-haired weirdo ignored Valletta's expression and left here after saying that. He didn't care about the murderous wolf at all. What a willful woman. But I don't plan to give Finn to the others. I must kill him myself. Valletta looked at the weirdo's leaving figure with a little displeasure. Then she looked at the vertical hole with a cruel smile, and dark malice flowed around her. She was defeated by Finn at the beginning, and she had an indelible hatred for him. Only by witnessing his death with her own eyes and personally giving him the pain engraved in his soul can she satisfy her long distorted desire. Ah! Hearing this, the werewolf's sanity completely collapsed, and a gust of wind rolled up under his feet at the same time. Surrounded by astonishing hostility and murderous aura, there was no extra thought in his mind. He just wanted to tear the woman in front of him to pieces. Finn's previous defeated figure was engraved in his eyes. The defeat and even near death of his companions had already made Bert on the verge of exploding. I'm not interested in fighting with the LV.6 fierce wolf now. Feeling the chill from the werewolf. A playful smile rose on Valletta's face, and then he took out a red sphere made of metal. The inside of the sphere was engraved with the letter D. The red sphere, which was similar to a magic tool, was emitting a blood-red glow at this moment. Bang! With a dull sound of landing, the mountain bronze door made of the hardest metal blocked the werewolf. The pouring offensive was interrupted. Damn woman! Ah ah ah! Bert's unwilling howl echoed in the passage. During this period, Sioran, who was traveling on another route, seemed to have a feeling and looked at the red gem embedded in the wall. A playful arc appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he uttered a few words silently. The current hall was deep in the artificial maze, and two figures were standing here silently. They stared at the light screen in front of them. The light screen showed the scene of Sioran and Loki's family moving in the artificial maze. Then Atos, are you sure those things are useful to him? Such a monster. After a while, a voice sounded in the space, with a little doubt in the tone. The speaker was a human male. This person was wearing clothes similar to work clothes, with a long cloth wrapped in between. The skin was unhealthy and pale, and it was obvious that he was rarely exposed to sunlight. The messy hair covered one eye. The other eye was dull and lifeless, and there were thick dark circles around it. At first glance, it was the type who had not been out for a long time. He was exactly the man in the portrait provided by Loki. Ha 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 ha. How interesting, how interesting. Unlike the man next to him who was obviously shaken. The man called then Atos was inexplicably excited. There was a smile on his perfect face, and he kept emitting a transcendent aura. This was his essence. After all, he was the god of death, then Atos. The god of death who ferried the invincible soul was looking at the disk in front of him with a burning gaze. The corners of his mouth subconsciously opened a surprising arc, as if he saw a very interesting picture. Who knows, brother Baka? But isn't this interesting? You are such a surprising kid. Hero. Then Atos did not comment on Baka's question. Earlier, they were watching Hestia and the Loki clan entering the artificial maze. But when they turned their eyes specifically to the black-haired boy, even Baka, who has always focused on building artificial mazes, couldn't help but feel frightened. As they looked at the hero, the boy's eyes in the light screen also turned to them. Then the boy's mouth moved slightly, and Baka could clearly read the answer from his lips sinking. Try to please me, mice. Chapter 126 Two Wet Nurses. The message from the hero through the light screen made Baka feel a chill in his heart. The speechless chill was permeating his soul from an unknown distance. As if a newborn cub was being stared at by a fierce natural enemy, his instinctive fear continued to grow. He was doubting whether it was a correct decision for him to lure the people of the Loki family and the Hestia family here. The mountain bronze door in the underground waterway was naturally opened by him on purpose. In this man-made maze, there are forces from multiple factions hidden. The remnants of the Dark faction, the weirdos in the underground maze, and him who fulfilled the wish of his ancestors. Most of the forces hidden in the shadows of Orario gathered here. It was for this reason Baka agreed to let the people of the Loki family and the Hestia family in. They made many preparations to deal with the top factions in these two cities. Before this, Baka had absolute confidence in burying all the members of these two families here. The brave man who has now fallen to the ground is the best proof. Even the leader of the Loki clan who once led the end of the Dark Age is now almost dead here. They are only one step away from exile. I believe they will never escape Valletta's pursuit. However, the confidence that Baka had just built up was completely shattered before. The hero just cast his eyes, and his dead heart trembled. there is an irresistible will in those indifferent eyes. Even at a long distance, Baka was in awe from the bottom of his heart. But, why did he notice our investigation? I can't understand it at all, Nitos. Suppress the negative emotions that keep growing in his heart. Baka's tone is full of doubts. He has never seen such an adventurer in his past life. He has heard of the name of hero, but this is the first time he has seen it. Inheriting the will of his ancestors, he has devoted his life to building this Knossos, artificial maze. This was the obsession of his ancestor, the master craftsman, Daedalus, of the past. The master craftsman 1,000 years ago had set an ambitious goal. He wanted to create the highest masterpiece that was not inferior to the underground labyrinth with the beauty of chaos. This obsession has been passed on for 1,000 years until today's Baka. The master craftsman, who was once a rare one to receive the grace of the great god Uranus, later fell completely crazy for this. After seeing the unimaginable magnificence, the only thing left in Great Ross was the obsession of building an artificial labyrinth. He was called a world-shaking genius in the field of craftsmanship, and the underground city aroused his desire to burn his soul to death. However, due to the short lifespan of the human race, Daedalus could not complete the construction of Knossos in his lifetime. Therefore, he made a blood oath 1,000 years ago that his descendants must complete his obsession. The thrilling madness of the master craftsman has been passed down through the bloodline to this day. Now it is Baka who is responsible for building this artificial labyrinth. However, despite the endless efforts of the tribe for thousands of years, Knossos is still far from completion, and it has only reached 1/3 of Daedalus' design. Influenced by the obsession flowing in his blood, Baka finally chose to cooperate with the Dark faction and members of other forces. To create a masterpiece that is not inferior to the underground maze, it must require astronomical funds and materials. Baka alone cannot achieve the will of his ancestors, so he looks for allies. The remnants of the Dark faction, weirdos, Ishtar families, etc. are all his trading targets. The previous cooperation with the fishing gods of the port city was also for this reason. He was responsible for giving the other party props that could expel monsters, and the fishing families provided him with massive funds. The content of the cooperation with the Ishtar families was similar, and both were transactions based on the needs of both parties. He needed extremely huge funds and materials to fulfill the wishes of his ancestors for thousands of years. Among all the objects of Baka's cooperation, the Ishtar families could be regarded as the most important rich people who supported him. After all, Ishtar, who occupies Fengios Street, has financial resources that all gods covet. That goddess is one of the richest gods in the entire Maze City. Moreover, for her own purpose, Ishtar never hesitates to provide financial support. Therefore, she was one of the most important sources of funds for Baka to build the labyrinth. But with the subsequent destruction of the Ishtar family, his channels for obtaining wealth were reduced by half. The progress of Knossos was also affected, greatly increasing the burden of the project. It was because of this problem that the members of the Dark Brigade persuaded him with this. The Loki family and the Hestia family were obviously investigating them hiding in the dark recently. If their bases were found by the other party later, it would definitely come to an end. None of their forces could stop the union of the two top factions in the city. If this continues, the funds obtained after Knossos will definitely become less and less, and it will eventually fail to fulfill the wishes of the ancestors. For various considerations, Baka agreed to the request of the allies and gathered everyone here. Strive to introduce the members of the Loki family and the Hestia family into this artificial labyrinth and bury them. But just now, a question or denial arose in Baka's mind. Can they really leave the hero here? When he thought of the black-haired boy who was watching him from a distance, Baka couldn't control his own hesitation. In contrast to the excited Thanatos beside him, he gradually felt a little scared. The enemy they will face may be a monster beyond imagination. When he saw the figure of the hero here before, he specially reminded the people of the Dark faction. But those crazy people didn't care about these at all, and were confident in their own cards. Inexplicably, Baka's worries were accumulating in his heart, and they had formed a tide. "Master Sioran, what were you looking at just now?" Feyerwazi had been staying beside the boy. Naturally, she noticed his gaze that turned to the orb on the wall before. Seeing this, the elf girl also subconsciously cast her eyes there, but did not find anything unusual. So she was a little curious at the moment. "Me? Ha, there was a mouse peeking at us just now. It seems that they are planning to take action." While speaking, Sioran and his companions have now walked out of the narrow passageway. Now they are in a very wide space, which is about tens of meters wide. Dong. Not long after entering this space, the passageway behind them was closed by a mountain copper door made of the hardest metal. At the same time, all the scattered magic stone lamps around went out, and darkness instantly invaded the place. It was as if the hunters who had been waiting for a long time began to show up, as if they saw that the carefully prepared trap had captured the prey. The cold malice gradually emerged in the field, and the venomous snake that was ready to go opened its fangs. "Wu Lord Sioran." As Sioran looked around, a soft body approached him. Well, this warm touch. It was the erotic fox for sure. The moment he touched it, Sioran knew who was beside him. After all, his arm was already trapped in a huge evil and could not move. That was a shackle that he could hardly break free of even with his power beyond the gods. The only person with such strength in the family, apart from the god girl, is Haruhime Sanjano. At present, the charming fox girl is hugging him tightly, her body trembling slightly. The girl obviously cannot adapt to the sudden change of the surrounding environment. "I didn't expect that, Haruhime. You are surprisingly afraid of the dark, you can hug me tighter." Sioran teased Haruhime Sanjano easily, not caring about the malice pouring from all around. "Woo." The boy's slightly frivolous words awakened the fox girl, who was gradually falling into fear. After realizing the current situation, Haruhime Sanjano subconsciously let out a moan. The blood in her body was constantly flowing, emitting a scalding heat. The frequency of her heartbeat became fast and powerful at this moment, and the scorching heat in her chest dispelled the chill that made her heart tremble. Sioran knew without even looking that the girl's pink skin must have turned red long ago. Even though she had been in the land of desire in Fenjio Street, Sanjano Haruhime was not stained with a trace of dirt. The innocence of the fox girl was no less than that of the elves. "Lord Sioran, I really hope you have a little sense of crisis." Feyerwazi, who was standing next to Sioran, sighed helplessly. But it was more like a kind of pampering than complaining. The darkness in the space naturally could not block the sight of the pure white fairy, so she saw everything that happened just now. Feyerwazi has long been accustomed to the laxity of the person she loves. But the enemies are preparing to launch an offensive, and her own leader is still flirting with the lonely girl. Seeing this, Feyerwazi felt helpless and a little angry in her heart. Around, the girls who had become a little alert because the light suddenly went out have now calmed down again. When he is around, they are always insulated from tension. This intoxicating sense of security is a deadly poison for women. The girls present are not ordinary people. They are all senior adventurers with both determination and strength. But when they are with the boy, they always tend to instinctively remove all their defenses. "Sia, Lord Sioran, can I hug you like this?" Unexpectedly, Cassandra, who has always been weak, took the initiative to attack. It seems that it is precisely because of the darkness that the girl can muster some courage. On normal days, except for the ambiguous nights, she never dares to make such a bold move. Hey! So cunning, Lily also wants it? Then I will also. The atmosphere in the field inexplicably developed in the direction of a sitcom, and there was no trace of the previous seriousness. There is really no way to deal with him. Noticing this, Firwazi sighed happily in her heart. The same was true for Ahmed, who was also calm beside her. Well, I welcome it, but something is coming. Sensing the impending abnormality, Sioran reminded his own girl in a gentle voice. Of course he was happy to be intimate with them, but the opponent obviously would not give him this time. As soon as the voice fell, a rustling sound of friction sounded above his head. It was as if something was crawling. The Holy Grail of Destruction, transformed into a shield. The Holy Grail of the Supreme God of Salvation. Firwazi's keen combat awareness made her chant the super short text without hesitation. The girl's woven singing turned into a pure white barrier, resisting the attack from above. Poisonous demon maggot. Soon, the girls recognized the thing that fell on the ground. This is a poisonous monster that many adventurers are afraid of. They have toxins that even abnormal resistance cannot resist. They often travel in groups and are one of the nightmares of the lower layer. No adventurer is willing to face them. The monster that should have existed in the underground maze now appears in the artificial maze. Such an unreasonable scene made the girls of Hestia's family a little stunned. However, Firwazi and the others were not panicked at all. Not only because these poisonous monsters can't touch them at all. More importantly, there are two nurses in the team, Cassandra and Ahmed. Both girls have detoxification magic, and one of them is at the bug level. So these poisonous demon maggots are not a threat to them at all. Not even enough to cause any trouble. Come on. Sioran naturally had no interest in participating in this kind of battle, but watched the girls' cooperation with relish. It must be said that beautiful girls are beautiful girls. Even in the battle, they still have amazing charm. The almighty pure white fairy, the resolute warrior girl, the calm and wise little human commander. The tacit understanding that has existed between them for a long time allows them to ignore the dark environment around them. According to Lily Luca's command, the girls of Hestia's family are dealing with the attacking monsters in an orderly manner without a trace of panic. At this moment, accompanied by a heavy voice, a side door somewhere in the space was suddenly opened. Several remnants of the dark faction wearing black robes appeared here. They all carried a large amount of firestones on their bodies and were currently rushing towards the girls. At the same time, their bodies, the robe under his body gradually swelled, and the energy accumulated inside was obviously about to be released. This was a suicide attack by the enemy. Here, I offer the price of your foolish wish. Here, the remnants of the dark faction all rushed in with the determination to die. Even though the vision was obscured by darkness, the twisted madness of the other party could be clearly sensed. In order to realize their sad wish, they could give up everything. Get out. A plain voice sounded in the current space, please. The walls made of super hard metal and the doors made of the hardest metal were shaking under the will of the owner of the voice. The monsters that had been attacking the girls one after another seemed to have encountered a natural enemy at this time. After a moment of stagnation, they retreated to the depths at a high speed. The remnants of the dark faction who tried to die together were also isolated in the air by an invisible wall. The whole body was tightly wrapped by death and could not even struggle. The face hidden under the robe was no longer as fearless as before. His eyes were full of fear and confusion, as if he didn't understand the current situation. But the next moment, they no longer have to wonder about this. In the field, a violent storm quietly rolled up around, and in the blink of an eye, the dark faction's dead soldiers were smashed into pieces. In the dark space, it looked like a pile of swaying flames, which were instantly extinguished by a pair of invisible hands. It did not cause any fluctuations and disappeared silently. Poisonous demon maggots are fine. Sioran will not let these guys disturb the girls' fight. The members of the dark faction are basically crazy people like this. For the sake of illusory wishes, they die according to the will of the evil god. Sioran is not interested in their so-called sad wishes. As long as they dare to bar their fangs at him with malice, he will crush them without mercy. During this period, the scene of Sioran destroying the remnants of the dark faction was clearly presented in the eyes of Baka in the depths of the maze. It's just a crushing defeat. Seeing the scene in the light screen, Baka sighed in frustration. Now, he no longer had any hope of burying the hero. This was not a monster they could defeat. If it weren't for fulfilling his ancestors' last wish, he would even want to cut off contact with that group of allies. I thought that apart from this obsession, there would be no more fluctuations. I didn't expect that there would still be a lingering emotion, fear. Pictured is amid. Chapter 127, Stepping into the Abyss. The hall deep inside Knossos fell into a silent silence. After watching the battle of Hestia's family, Baka's inner turmoil became more obvious. Without the hero taking action, the strength of the girls was already very terrifying. The first trap they had carefully prepared before was solved so easily by him. A large number of extremely threatening poisonous demon maggots, the Dark Faction Death King who sacrificed his life. Baka knew that it would be impossible to eliminate Hestia's family at this level. But he didn't expect that he couldn't even do a little damage in the end. Coupled with the strength that the hero showed later, Baka's suppressed sense of uneasiness became even stronger. I didn't expect it either. Hestia really picked up a very interesting child. Standing next to Baka, DanMachi was not worried about the situation in the field at all. He only cared about what direction the next development would go. He was originally an evil god who pursued fun. He had long been bored with the long-standing stability of the Labyrinth City. DanMachi hoped to see interesting things and was looking forward to what extent the people who received his favor could achieve. For this reason, he generously gave favors to the remnants of the Dark Faction, weaving a beautiful dream that would make them willing to die, so that they could present a wonderful stage play for him. However, the current development situation in the labyrinth was indeed somewhat beyond DanMachi's expectations. The hero of the Hestia family was obviously more exaggerated than planned. Even though some of the divine power was restricted and could not be used due to the compliance with the laws jointly formulated by the gods. But he still had the vision of a god. Of course, he could detect the tip of the iceberg that the hero had shown before. It was not magic, nor was it a special skill. It was more like a natural, thrilling storm in the closed artificial labyrinth. Such a rare scene made DanMachi lose his mind for a short time. However, what followed was extreme excitement. This is what he wanted to see, the unknown and interesting beyond the god's expectations. Can the hero also show the miracles of the past in this Knossos? Thinking of this, DanMachi narrowed his eyes slightly, and the vast divine will was hidden in them. Then he spoke to Baka beside him. Brother Baka, how about asking you for another favor? What do you want to do, DanMachi? 910 was silent for a while. Baka turned his head and looked at the god of death beside him, his tone was extremely cold. He knew that the male god in front of him was not a kind person. If it weren't for his help in completing the construction of the artificial maze, he would not want to have too much communication with him. Baka was not interested in anything except the construction of Knossos. The meaning of his existence was only to complete the will of his ancestors that had been passed down in his blood for thousands of years. Haha, don't be so indifferent. DanMachi completely ignored Baka's indifferent attitude and then stated his request. I want. Somewhere in the artificial maze, similar to the team that Sioran and Finn were marching. Another team of Loki's family, the team led by the dwarf war king Grace, also came to a hall. Both sides of the hall are walls made of super hard metal, and there is only one road in front. But this front passage is located above, about 3 meters above the ground. It's so big here. After entering this space, Diona couldn't help but sigh at the spaciousness of the current environment. The area here is completely opposite to the narrow fork before, enough to accommodate thousands of districts. They had never thought that there would be such an amazing room in this cold underground. These guys are really hiding deep. Compared to her simple-minded sister, the rational Shin obviously thought more. Such an exaggerated thing could be built quietly under the maze city. The enemy hiding in the dark seems to be more powerful than they imagined. Nice to meet you, adventurers of Loki's family. As Isai and the others carefully looked at the surrounding environment, a figure appeared at the entrance of the passage in front. The visitor was wearing clothes similar to work clothes, and his face was extremely pale. The eyes revealed under the messy hair were lifeless and full of death. He was Baka, who had accepted the commission from Sanatos before. This guy is the man in the portrait given by Loki. After a brief look, Shin recognized the figure opposite. The visitor was exactly the same as the portrait drawn by Loki in the port city. Everyone, be careful. The battle-hardened Grace sensed the approach of some danger and loudly reminded the members around him. I'm so sorry. I didn't expect you were looking for me. Please allow me to call myself Baka. This is the masterpiece Gnosis that we have created. Then I'm very sorry. I was ordered to lead everyone from Loki's family into the abyss of darkness. Facing the vigilance of the Loki family, Baka didn't care. He just said his purpose indifferently. This trip was to follow the will of the god of death. Understanding the deep meaning in the other party's words, Grace had realized something. He suddenly turned his side to the front. I saw a red gem inlaid on the ground in the center of the hall, which was emitting an ominous red light at this time. Even if the halo was not strong, it was particularly bright in this dark space. Grace had seen several gems like this on his way. But the gem in the hall now was much larger than the ones he had seen before. Little devil, jump quickly. The experienced intuition of the dwarf warrior told him that there was danger here. The sudden throbbing in his heart made him shout at the members behind him subconsciously. The dark malice has been woven into a net, waiting for the outsider who accidentally stepped in at this moment. Too slow. Baka ignored Grace's roar and lifted the long hair covering his left eye. Under this, the red pupil was branded with a clear D mark, which was the paranoia flowing in his blood for thousands of years. Then, Baka focused his eyes on the red gem in the center of the hall. Soon, the light of the gem began to flicker. Indescribable coldness attacked the people of Loki's family. The sense of weightlessness that came instantly froze Grace's senses at this moment. At present, the ground under their feet suddenly turned into a deep hole, which made them unable to react at all. Even as a first-level adventurer, they would temporarily follow the instincts of creatures. The earth was still thick and steady in the last second, but it turned into an unexplorable depth in the next moment. The situation changed so fast that no one could adapt. Goodbye, Loki clan. Ah! At the same time as Baka's voice, the screams of most members of Loki clan rang out. Most of the members of AIC's team are members of the lower level of the clan. That's why this team is equipped with the most top adventurers. Faced with such a bad situation, the first-level adventurers did not respond immediately. What's more, most of them are still at 4.2 and leave 3. The weightlessness from their feet made them forget their previous calmness, and only panicked shouts remained. Zzz. Shin, who was the first to react, tried to throw the hook with the rope to the wall. However, it didn't work at all, and only a few cold sparks were rubbed in the deep passage. The walls made of super hard metal all around had no cracks at all. Therefore, the idea of using the hook to slow down the descent speed was completely unrealizable. Even as a powerful adventurer of 4.6, Shin could only watch herself falling down helplessly. There was no foothold around her, and she had strength, but it was difficult to use it. The only hope in the field was AISI, who could use Wind Spirit Sprint. But the ground that suddenly opened before closed at a very fast speed. However, in an instant, the scene in front of the team disappeared. The sudden situation was so fast that even AISI could hardly react. Finally, they all fell into an artificial maze with an unknown number of layers below. There is no light source here, only the dead silence and darkness that corrodes the soul. Even ordinary senior adventurers who have been sublimated many times will feel uncomfortable with the current bad environment. As long as there is a normal life, no one will like this darkness full of death. Grace, what should we do next? Shin asked the veteran of the family. As one of the 3 giants who joined the Loki family the earliest, the dwarf warrior has experienced too many life and death battles and has extremely rich combat experience. In the current situation, it is best to follow the command of this family elder. In the absence of Finn and Livalia, Grace is the most stable guarantee of the family. Change your mindset, little devils. We were originally hunters in this investigation, but now our positions have changed. Now we have become their prey. Grace made a decision after taking a quick look around, and reminded the team members again. He knew very well that they were like beasts trapped in a cage. The enemy must be secretly observing their every move in the dark, waiting for an opportunity. Once they are caught by the enemy, they will surely be attacked unimaginably. Come on, everyone, stay together and don't be alone. In such an environment, it is unclear how many enemies there are. If you are alone, it is very likely to mean death. Especially since there are many low-level team members in their team, they can't deal with sudden attacks alone. So the best choice at the moment is to gather together and never fall behind. Realizing this, everyone silently closed the distance between each other and warned each other behind each other. Ace and the Amazon twins were at the front of the team, acting as the vanguard. Grace was behind the team, responsible for covering their retreat. While the first-level adventurers were protecting their family members with a siege, they began to explore forward step by step. Outside Knossos. It had been several hours since Yoran and Finn entered the artificial maze. Rivalia, who stayed here, realized that something was wrong. With Sioran's strength, there was no news sent back until now. This kind of thing should not happen. Although they had never fought with him, the royal elves could also slightly sense the boy's terrifying strength. This was not the 5 senses of the adventurer, but the intuition of being a woman. However, until now, the exploration team has not sent back any information. Sioran, sorry, I'm slacking off. This made even the usually calm Livalia feel a little anxious at this moment. She certainly believed in their strength. But what if they were scattered or trapped? Inexplicably, this thought came to the royal elf's mind. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but walk to the wall of the artificial maze and hit the wall hard with the end of the long staff in her hand, accompanied by a fierce collision sound. Ordinary rubble outside the wall fell, revealing the shiny metal inside. Livalia picked up the rubble on the ground and recognized its material after carefully examining it for a while. Body stone of Obsidian Soldier. Obsidian Soldier is a monster that appeared on the 37th floor. The whole body is made of obsidian and has extremely high magic resistance. This material is generally used by blacksmiths to create excellent anti-magic shields or armor. Now it seems that the walls of the artificial maze are mixed with this material. Seeing this, Livalia narrowed her eyes. She was worried that Sioran and Finn were trapped inside. According to her estimation, even if she cast magic with all her strength, she could not destroy this maze. This material with extremely strong anti-magic properties is enough to reduce most of the power. Not to mention that Finn and others who are inside, it is even more difficult to get out. As for Sioran, the royal elves don't know what the situation is like there. After all, the boy has been doing things beyond their cognition since they first met. But there is only one thing she can be sure of. That is that there is absolutely nothing in this artificial maze that can threaten him. But Finn's side. Thinking of this, Livalia asked the team members to prepare a map of the nearby area immediately. She planned to use her second-level magic repeatedly for detection. Her second-level magic Sword of Victory can identify all the friends and monsters in the magic circle. Therefore, Livalia can perform wide-area exploration with all her strength and then interrupt the magic. Repeat this process to continuously consume magic power and spirit to conduct exploration. This is the only method she can think of at present. Although it is very mentally exhausting, for the safety of her companions, she no longer cares about it. The elegant royal elves occasionally show such clumsy and serious appearance. Lady Livalia, here are all the maps nearby. Shortly after the order was issued, a blonde elf hurried to Livalia with several rolls of maps. The elf girl is named Alicia Forrest, and she is a candidate for the Cotter of the Loki family. The adventurer level is 4.4, and she is the king of the core members of the Loki family like Rahul and Ankai. Thank you for your hard work, Alicia. Livalia took the map and scanned the structure presented on it. Then she stopped wasting time and began to chant magic. The moment the song was woven, a huge emerald magic circle rose at the same time under the feet of the royal elves. The exploration began from then on. Chapter 128 Careful Killing Intentions. While Livalia was searching outside, the situation in the artificial maze was also changing at the same time. Then Atos, I have pushed the Loki family down to the 8th floor. Back in the depths of Knossos, Baka coldly told the god of death the result of the matter. In the artificial maze, he has absolute control. This is something given by Daedalus bloodline, or a curse. Only those who inherit the bloodline of the former master craftsman can manipulate Knossos at will. So he can easily push the people of the Loki family into the abyss. Oh, you helped me a lot, brother Baka. Then Atos naturally saw everything here and was very satisfied with Baka's actions. It was he who instructed him to stop the Loki family before. The purpose is of course to make the stage play more exciting. The god of death is very curious. The hero who usually sings and advances bravely in the maze city. Can all the members of Loki's family who have fallen into darkness be rescued? Otherwise, it would be an interesting ending to let them die here. If one of the two kings of Orario is buried in Knossos like this, then the turbulent times of the past will surely come to the city again. No matter what the result is, it will be very interesting. What can you do, hero? Thanatos' face showed an expectant expression. At present, the dark will of the god of death is more severe than the deep darkness around. A guy with bad taste. Baka glanced at the male god indifferently, and then walked to a position similar to a control console. There are vine-like branch plants entwined under the stone seat. In the entire hall, such plants are everywhere. And the upper part of the stone seat is embedded with a very bright red gem. Similar to the gem in the artificial maze, but the one in front of you is obviously a circle larger. Its luster is deeper. 88-3 Just as Baka was staring at the screen in front of him, a frivolous voice came. Why is Knossos so noisy today? What the hell are you doing? Asterisk. The source of the voice. A tough-looking human male walked into the hall with a casual smile on his lips. He wore goggles made of smoky quartz on his face. You can vaguely see the red pupils under the black lenses. At a glance, anyone who has seen him will think that he is a pure villain. He is Baka's younger brother, Dix per Dix, who also has cursed blood in his body. Shut up, Dix. You and I were just born from the same woman's belly, you are not allowed to call me brother. Hearing the other party's words, Baka's indifferent face showed a hint of disgust. Baka was extremely disgusted with the man in front of him who had the same blood as himself. Completely opposite to himself, who inherited the will of his ancestors. Dix didn't care about the construction of Knossos at all, which violated the instinct given by blood. He was just a waste who indulged in sadism. Just kidding, Baka. When I think about you, a cursed slave, I have a blood relationship with you. I feel sick and want to vomit. The smile on Dix's mouth became mocking, as if he was very disdainful of the blood flowing in his body. In this respect, he and Baka were the same, both extremely disgusted with each other. However, Dix quickly put this emotion behind him and began to move towards the main console. He was a little concerned about the current situation of the artificial maze, and temporarily suppressed his disgust. Then he walked to Baka and looked at the light screen in front of him with him. Except for the pictures of most unmanned passages, there was only the scene of Grace and others moving forward cautiously in the dark environment. And the girls of Hestia's family kept looking around in the hall. As for the traces of Finn and his men, they had been lost long before. After all, Knossos is still in an unfinished state, and those semi-finished passages have not yet been equipped with their eyes. In this artificial maze, each relief is set with pale flowers. The images captured by the flowers can be clearly transmitted to the light screen on the console through vines. Baka and his men did not originally have this technology, which was provided by the red-haired weirdo later. Ha ha ha, so interesting. So they are hunting the Loki family. Huh? The monster hero is actually here too. Dick saw the picture on the light screen, and a cruel coldness flashed in his eyes. However, when he noticed the black-haired boy in a certain picture, his pupils could not help but shrink suddenly. The people of the Loki family are fine, but Hero is not someone he can challenge. Even though his emotions have long collapsed, he clearly understands what 4.10 represents. He had heard before that the remnants of the Dark faction and the woman were planning to do something. But I didn't expect that they would attract the strongest in the city. What a bunch of idiots. Dix put away the smile on his face. Then he leisurely picked up a red spear leaning against the wall. He waved it in his hand for a few times, and then put the spear on his shoulder. Since you are so confident, leave it to you to deal with monsters like Hero. I'm going to hunt the Loki family. After locking his target, Dix left with his weapon. Baka didn't care about Dix's movements, and still stared at the light screen in front of him indifferently. He would monitor all the actions of Hero and Loki family on this console. If anything unexpected happened, he would control the entire floor of the maze through the gem in front of him. Ignoring the uneasiness that continued to grow in his heart, Baka stared at the boy in the light and shadow with a serious look. Probably located on the 6th floor of Knossos, Rahul was holding Finn in the 10 open spaces to rest temporarily. After escaping the enemy's pursuit, they decided to hide here. No, Rahul, the leader's wound can't heal at all. The Catgirl Angel poured all kinds of precious healing potions on the leader of the dwarf tribe. However, to their despair, all the recovery potions did not work. The hideous wound on Finn's body did not improve at all, and it was no different from when he was first injured. Why? I have used so many elixirs, how can it be useless? Rawl's voice gradually became low, with a touch of despair in his tone. He clearly felt that the wound in front of him, the heartbeat of the leader of the dwarf tribe, was gradually weakening. The bright red liquid was still flowing out of his body. Seeing the leader who used to be gentle and calm now turned into this state, Rawl's mind was severely damaged. He had used up all his courage to react and leave quickly with Finn. He thought he could take advantage of the opportunity to rest here to heal the leader's injuries and make plans later. But the desperate facts in front of them completely tore their expectations apart. Even if all the potions were used up, it was still difficult to heal the leader's severely injured body. It's a curse. The ominous weapon in the hand of the red-haired woman is cursed. After thinking for a while, Ankai remembered the breath she felt when she saw the weapon in the woman's hand before. Dark and gloomy, death. It was clearly a cursed weapon. Facing such weapons, if the curse cannot be removed, the leader cannot be treated. But their current team has no anti-curse props at all, and no healers have been equipped. In other words, if they don't flee from here, their leader will eventually lose his life. When they thought of that outcome, Rahul and the others' sanity seemed to be gradually broken. Even Leffy Ya, who was still able to remain strong, could not help but feel a little bitter. The best option now was to leave this place. However, in the current artificial maze, there were not only enemies with the strength of first-level adventurers. There were also countless monsters. With them, a group of second-level adventurers with a maximum of 4.4. It is simply a fantasy to want to escape from this maze. Mr. Sioran, what should I do? The elf girl involuntarily called out the familiar name in her heart. In this darkness where despair is gradually woven, only from that figure can a little courage be found. At the same time, on another floor of Knossos, Ice and the others who were groping forward in the darkness also encountered difficulties. At present, the new species of monsters the size of ants are densely surrounding them. Not only that, a lot of friction noises came from the top of the team. The poisonous demon maggots that are no less powerful than the new species of monsters below also attacked at this moment. Facing the attacks from both above and below, Ice and the others can only protect themselves. As for the other members whose physical fitness is too different, it is even more difficult to resist this offensive. However, after a short contact, many members of the team have been poisoned by the poisonous demon maggots. Without any surprise, their subsequent pace of progress is gradually becoming slower. Not only do they have to deal with the continuous attacks of monsters, but they also need to protect the members who have been severely injured. Naturally, this has delayed the progress of the exploration. Wake up. Realizing that if this continues, they will fall into a worse situation. Ace directly called out her own wind, and instantly put on the protection of the wind. Next, the girl used her superb sword skills to continuously kill the poisonous demon maggots falling from her head. Compared with the new monsters below, they are more threatening. The sword princess who judged this was harvesting the monsters in the field at an astonishing speed. A bright silver and gold appeared in the claustrophobic dark space. The sharp sword light kept taking the lives of the monsters, and the slender figure was flexibly moving in it. These things are so annoying. Tiona couldn't suppress the restlessness in her heart, and violently waved the big double blades in her hand. The wailing of her companions being attacked and the monsters in front of her who continued to disturb her. The Amazon girl gradually lost control of her emotions. The fierce double-edged sword tore apart anything that tried to get close to it, leaving behind blood and body parts all over the ground. It's so noisy, Diona, kill these ghosts quickly. Dione's state at this time is not much different from her sister. Yingji swung the kukri in his hand faster, trying to protect the members behind him from being attacked. As for Grace, now he is at the end of the team, resisting all the pressure from the rear alone. The battle-hardened Zongja has an extremely strong physique. Few people can match his endurance and strength. For a while, he was able to stop the attack of the monster group. The monsters in front were mainly dealt with by Isai, Diona, and Dione. The first-level adventurers who knew that they could not waste too much time here all opened fire. Finally, they walked out of the space surrounded by monsters. However, the place they are in is still dark and filled with dead silence. Please spare me, I really want to kill the creator of this maze now. Shin felt that they were in a worse situation. The hero who had experienced countless battles sensed some deep malice hidden in the dark. Soon, her intuition was fulfilled. The beasts that had been waiting here for a long time showed their fangs. In the depths that were difficult to detect, a group of people wearing light black clothes and hiding their figures from head to toe appeared. They are assassins. Shin is quite familiar with this kind of shadow assassin. On her journey after she and her sister left Tirskara, I have encountered assassins like this in the dark several times. They are proficient in assassination and often wander among the ministers of shadows. Compared with the crazy members of the dark faction, assassins are much simpler. Rather than being people, they are more like pure weapons. Accept the commission and then assassinate. Either complete the hired task and solve the target, or die in the hands of certain people. There is no communication next, and the death fight begins the moment of contact. At present, language is the most useless tool, and the golden spear in hand is the only way to communicate. Assassins living in the shadows can only mechanically assassinate their targets. Isai and others who have dealt with them a lot naturally know this. Zzz. The sound of weapons clashing constantly echoed in the lonely floor. The sparks of the collision of golden spears are the only remaining halo here. Even in the darkness, Isai and Ione have not been affected. The girls who have evolved several times will be disturbed by ordinary vision. Besides, the assassins in front of them were not very strong. The dangerous thing was the daggers in their hands, which had a strange aura. This was a curse. The first-level adventurers of the Loki clan had fought against similar enemies in the past. They naturally knew the danger of such weapons. Therefore, they all raised their spirits to the highest level to deal with the enemy's fearless attacks. Even though Aisi and the others were wary of the special nature of the opponent's weapons. But weapons could not make up for the gap between assassins and first-level adventurers. The basic abilities and combat experience of both sides were too different, and the balance of the battlefield soon tilted towards the Loki clan. However, a harsh high-frequency sound wave suddenly appeared in the field. 3.2 The uncomfortable frequency is enough to affect the thinking of normal people. Isai and the members of the entire team could not help but be distracted for a moment. At this moment, the enemy lurking in the deeper space seized the gap of their paws. A dazzling light appeared in the space without any color. This was the magic that the enemy had prepared for a long time. Under the cover of this halo, Isai, the Amazon twins and the dwarf Grace noticed its effect. Abnormal magic. After countless battles, they naturally understood what was happening at the moment. From the moment they stepped into this place, the enemy's carefully arranged killing moves were gradually revealed. The curse of the dagger creates obstacles to make them hesitate. The next step is a surprise attack that affects their thinking. Then, taking advantage of the moment when everyone is distracted, use abnormal magic to reduce their ability values. The enemies hiding in the dark seized all opportunities and dealt a fatal blow at this moment like a venomous snake. But they missed only one point. In the field, they were not facing ordinary first-level adventurers. The dwarf warrior Grace has abnormal endurance and physical strength. This level of weakening will not have much impact on him. As for Aisi and the Amazon twins, they were both cheated by Sioran. Their instruments have long been sublimated, and the current negative magic can't shake them at all. If you want to reduce their ability values, at least the abnormal magic of the same level as the girls can produce an effect. In addition, the two heroes of the Loki family also have exaggerated passive skills. Big counterattack and big hot fight. The more the sisters are on the verge of despair, the higher and faster their basic physical qualities will improve. Although Diona and Ione no longer call themselves warriors, the twins who emerged from the bloody slaughter in Daukyo, after training with their partners in the underground maze, can now definitely be called the strongest heroes of the Amazon race. Chapter 129, Shocking Speculations. Ha! In the floor where the vision was blocked, Diona swung the big double blade in her hand. As the cold light whistled past, several bright red splashes continued in the air. The body made of flesh and blood was as fragile as paper in front of this cold. The assassins around who tried to approach the girl could not resist such a terrifying attack. As long as they stepped into the opponent's attack range, they would be ruthlessly torn apart. The strength and speed of the first-level adventurers were far superior to them. Even if they took a suicide attack, they could not threaten the lives of the Loki family. On the battlefield, even if they were attacked by abnormal magic, Aisi and the others still firmly grasped the balance of victory. If it weren't for the low-level members in the team being affected by negative magic, they needed to take care of them. Otherwise, it would be difficult to delay time with just the assassins in front of them, and it would not take much time to eliminate them. 4.6 Standing at the top of Orario is not just talking. Wake up. Realizing that the current battlefield was about to be decided, Sword Princess chanted again without hesitation. Many of her companions in the team had been poisoned by the poisonous demon maggot before. Now they have to fight with the assassin who is not afraid of life and death, which is beyond their limit. Therefore, they can't waste too much time here, and they must solve it quickly. AISI, who knew this, accelerated her offensive. There is no need to be merciful to the enemies in front of them, they are all inhuman monsters. Very soon, the gust of wind followed the weaving song, and the strong wind pressure made it difficult for many people to open their eyes. AISI, who originally had an advantage in speed 15 degrees, became even more amazing after obtaining the protection of wind. In addition to the sparks of the constant collision of golden swords on the floor, there was only this dazzling golden shadow. The girl's graceful figure kept wandering among the crowd. The luster that could not be eroded by darkness added a touch of stunning color to the current space. The girl's figure sometimes appeared on the ground and sometimes jumped to the ceiling. The assassins' carefully prepared cursed props could not touch each other at all. On the battlefield where no one knew, Sword Princess was dancing at a speed that ordinary senior adventurers could not catch. Although she was in the battle, Isai's movements were full of beauty. Every time a silver stream of light passed by, a touch of bright red rose in the void. This is the beauty of coldness and death intertwined. After getting familiar with the opponent's attack, the girls of the Loki family are keeping the rhythm of the battlefield in their own hands. The situation is not good. The tenacity of the Loki family is beyond the original expectation. In the hall hidden deep in the artificial maze, Ka locked his eyes on the picture in the light curtain. Noticing the scene in front of him, Baka's indifferent face inevitably fluctuated. According to the will of Sanados, he deliberately pushed the people of the Loki family to the 8th floor. There was a trap they had prepared for a long time. If nothing unexpected happens, the things arranged should be enough to annihilate this team. However, he found that he seemed to have underestimated the top faction of the city. The strength of the first-level adventurers of the Loki family exceeded his expectations. Zongja, Jianji, Daki, and Wrathsnake. The 4LV.6 senior adventurers are currently tearing the spider web they carefully woven at an astonishing speed, breaking the dilemma that tries to pull them into darkness. Whether it is the shadow assassin wearing cursed equipment or the magician hiding deep in the depths responsible for weakening the Loki family, all are useless, and can only affect the lower-level members. Now, when those Leave 6 reacted, they even started a strong counterattack, and their own dead soldiers could only helplessly let out the dying wail. The status of the two sides changed again, and they turned from hunters to prey again. Halfway, Baka originally wanted to separate the members of the Loki family by controlling the red gem of Gnosis. But the enemy was too close, and there was no chance to disperse them. Therefore, Baka could only remind his allies here, and at the same time, he watched the people of Loki's family slowly advancing in the floor. Finally, after a brutal fight, Isai and the others rushed out of the encirclement with the members of the family. The encroaching darkness began to fade, and a hazy halo gradually appeared in front of the eyes. The only thing that remained unchanged was the coldness of the metal structure. Is this a new floor? There was a hint of doubt in Isai's tone. The scene in front of him was very different from the previous dark space. There was no smell of people, and the dust accumulated by monsters was everywhere. The surrounding walls and the ground passages were full of dirt. It seemed like an abandoned wasteland, with no trace of other people. We don't have time to delay here, we have to leave this artificial maze now. Grace, who was responsible for the rear, found that the conditions of many members of the team had become extremely bad. Ominous purple lines gradually appeared on their faces and arms. Members without abnormal resistance can't even move, and can only stand with the help of their teammates. The slightly better members are also twitching all over, and the poison has begun to attack the nerves of the body. In addition to the intense pain, there is also the badness of not being able to control the body. But how can we get out of here? Tiona looked at the complicated passage in front of her and couldn't help feeling dizzy. The surrounding environment is very similar to the previous Deadless Street, with dazzling forks everywhere. For the Amazon girl who never likes to use her brain, the current artificial maze is simply a cage that cannot be escaped. You are very noisy, Nuna. Be quiet. Dione always dislikes her stupid sister's shouting. Then her eyes focused on the passage around her. The hero who was not dominated by anger tried to find the right way. There is. Just when Aisi was about to step on the stairs down, the blood flowing in her body suddenly began to become hot, and the inexplicable feeling interrupted her next words. Familiar call. What's wrong with you, Aisi? Dione naturally noticed the abnormal state of the girl next to her, and couldn't help asking. Over there, it seems that something is calling me. Hearing this, everyone in the Loki family looked at the place where Aisi pointed. Following the direction of sight, there is an ordinary fork road, nothing unusual, and there are many similar passages around. Aisi. The wind fluctuated quietly in the space. Ignoring the exclamation of Diona behind her, Aisi rushed to the passage that concerned her. The inexplicable familiarity of the current existence reminded her of the fallen fairy spirit clone she encountered during the expedition. This is the burning heat of blood connection, and the blood of the spirit is reminding her. Therefore, Aisi is very concerned about what is left there. After roughly estimating the distance and finding that she can reach it in a short time, she rushed directly over. What? He actually ran over alone. After mumbling a little, Diona followed closely behind. She couldn't let her friend go alone in the maze where accidents are frequent. Even though she doesn't like to use her brain, she knows that such a reckless move is too dangerous. This girl's personality is really giving me a headache. It's no different from when she was a child. Little ghosts, hold on for a while, and follow me. Grace and the others naturally wouldn't leave Aisi behind, and then they followed her helplessly. Who? The ears were full of whistling wind, and everything around them became blurry at this moment. Without any other thoughts, Aisi was currently traveling through the passage at a very fast speed. The beating frequency of her chest was gradually increasing, and the blood in her body was also rushing. The inexplicable call was now tightly grasping the girl's heart, making it impossible for her to think too much. Soon, Aisi arrived at the target location. This is a completely different hall, and the door in front has been opened. Compared to the previous maze space covered with metal and stone slabs, this place is more like a laboratory. Several long tubes crawled on the ground, and finally gathered under the giant beaker in the center of the hall. Like an umbilical cord, it was transporting unknown substances to it. In addition, the hall was also filled with various strange smells and unrecognizable materials. Judging from the dust scattered in every corner, 450 has also been abandoned for a long time. However, the several giant beakers in the center of this place showed abnormalities, but now they seem to have all broken. In addition to the outer wall that had already broken, there was still a green disgusting solution inside the beaker, and the strange smell came from it. Aisi, who had just arrived, noticed the source of the throbbing in her body, which was caused by the unknown liquid in front of her. Fairy essence residue. After watching silently for a while, this name suddenly appeared in Aici's mind. The disgusting liquid in the beaker was the same as the feeling when she saw the green fetus gem and the fallen fairy spirit clone. There was an indescribable disgust and dizziness, which made her frown slightly. It was as if the pure and innocent blood in her body was suffering from some kind of infection. It was a completely opposite existence. The filthy fairy clone. Although there was no expression on Ace's face, the hesitation in her tone was very obvious. Seeing the scene in front of her, she thought of a very terrible guess. If the beakers in the current room are all pregnant with the fallen fairy clones like the ones she met on the 59th floor before, then does the broken cup wall now mean that the other party's goal has been achieved? Thinking of this guess, Ace couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. There are quite a few beakers in the center of the hall. If her idea is confirmed, the future will definitely be a disaster for Aurario. A monster that can only be defeated by the combined power of two powerful families on the 59th floor. Sioran, I have nothing to do with it. There are at least a few in this artificial maze. At this time, Ace understood a little why the other party dared to take the initiative to bring them in. In addition to the attacks of various monsters and assassins, the enemies in the depths also have a trump card that can be called a killer move. However, after thinking of the boy who explored with her, Ace's uneasiness gradually dissipated. What needs to be done now is to reunite with him as soon as possible. Nothing can threaten him, not even the filthy fairy spirit that is a strong enemy to her. The girl firmly believes this in her heart. Chapter 130, The Battlefield of Death. You are here after all, Arya. A strange yet familiar cold voice sounded quietly from behind Aisi. The room was already full of chill, and the temperature dropped a few degrees again. The chill that stung the skin came to her face, causing a chill to flash across Aici's back. Bright red hair, ominous weapons, and a pair of eyes without any emotion. The person who appeared in front of the girl was the weirdo who tried to attack her in the past. Come to think of it, I don't think I have ever introduced myself. I am Revis, remember this name, Arya. The moment the voice fell, a shocking momentum suddenly rose in the hall, and the horrifying pressure poured down like a waste rain. A boiling murderous aura rose in Revis's eyes, and she wanted to take Arya back. This is what it desires, and it is also the meaning of her existence. As for the first time, Aisi knew the name of the red-haired weirdo who attacked her. Feeling the opponent's unconcealed breath, Aisi's face became extremely serious. Her golden pupils reflected seriousness, staring closely at the enemy's every move. Although the opponent's appearance had a human body, it was completely twisted inside. She made her feel even colder and crueler than the monsters in the underground maze. In addition, she became stronger. Just by simply releasing her breath, Aisi felt a sense of heaviness from it. The air around her also retreated step by step under the opponent's pressing murderous intent, leaving only a weak wail. The floor of the hall could not withstand this horrifying breath and began to shake, and the already broken beaker was completely broken into pieces at this time. Ruwasi's current strength is completely different from when she fought in Rivera Town. More brutal, more cold. Even though she has reached LV.6 through sublimation, Aisi still feels pressure at the moment. It is definitely higher than 4.7, Aisi is sure in her heart. At the same time, she is also surprised at the opponent's upgrade speed. In the past, the opponent should be at 4.6. However, in just a few months, he suddenly has the strength beyond 4.7. She had only seen this amazing upgrade speed in Sioran in the past. Where is the thing in the beaker? Thinking of her guess, Aisi did not choose to start a battle immediately, and asked the other party out loud. The threat of those fallen fairy clones is too great, and if you are not careful, they may bring destruction to the Maze City. She needs to know the location of those things, and then gather strength to annihilate them. Never let the enemy have the opportunity to release the filthy fairy spirit, which will have devastating consequences. The monster at 4.7 is difficult for even their group of first-level adventurers. Not to mention the lower-level adventurers in Aurarium, half of whom are at 4.1. They must be dealt with here, Aisi is very clear about this. Of course they went to where they should go. In this maze, if you can find it. Hearing Aici's question, Revis's mouth curled up a cold smile. Then he raised the unknown sword in his hand high, and the violent aura locked the girl in front of him. The fierce sword roared heart-shakingly, wantonly disrupting everything in the field. It was like a beast about to hunt, revealing its sharp fangs and ruthless claws. What is that? I noticed the blood on the black sword. There was a touch of red on the black sword that made people unable to look away. There was no way his strength was in trouble. Then there was only one possibility left: Finn and his team. Next. Revis's answer confirmed what Aisi had thought in her heart, and her bad premonition was completely correct. I killed that little human with a spear. The red-haired weirdo's tone was full of indifference, and he didn't care about what he mentioned at all. Apart from it, only Arya, who made it care, could make Revis fluctuate. Wake up. Hearing the enemy's answer, Aici's expression became more stern, and then she quickly finished weaving the song. Temporarily suppressed the worry about her companions in her heart, and focused on dealing with Revis in front of her. No matter what the situation is over there, the best choice at present is to knock down the enemy in front of her very quickly. Wow, you actually took the initiative to attack. The attack launched by Aisi first was a little beyond Revis's expectations. She thought that Arya would lose her composure after knowing that the members of the family were in danger. But the other party did not do as she thought, but calmed down, with only pure and firm determination at the moment. The sharp edge of the girl's sword was the best proof. In a blink of an eye, the hall that looked like a laboratory turned into a battlefield of fierce confrontation. The high-pitched music played between swords echoed here. Several criss-crossing sword energy destroyed the already deserted hall into ruins. Even the walls mixed with super hard metal trembled under this terrifying cold light. Several sharp scars appeared on its smooth surface. The originally gentle wind in the space was now transformed into a deadly blade by the will of the Sword Princess. With the silver rapier constantly attacking Revis in front of him, trying to break the opponent's unbreakable defense. You've become stronger, Arya. During the battle, Revis noticed the obvious changes in Aisi. Compared to the original battle in the town of Rivera, the girl has obviously become stronger. Not only in terms of sword skills and physical fitness, but also in other things. Having lived in the underground maze for a long time, Revis could not understand that power. She only knew that even now she felt its tyranny. But, the person who will win this victory will be me. Revis was sure in her heart, not arrogant, but the fact. She could sense that Arya still retained some power. But that could not make up for the gap between them. Bang. Seizing the gap when Aisi stabbed straight, Revis used a record-breaking slash from top to bottom. The dark sword light wrapped in destructive killing intent came directly towards the girl, and once hit, she would inevitably lose the ability to move. Wind. The experience of countless battles has become an instinct, and Aisi decisively strengthened the wind surrounding her body. Her figure dodged Revis's attack with an incredible trajectory. It was as soft and sensitive as a fluttering feather. The more you wanted to catch it, the more you couldn't touch it. Just as the battle was gradually heating up. Aisi, enemy. Tiona, who followed Aisi, also arrived at the battlefield. Although the Amazon girl did not understand the situation on the field, her body had automatically made a choice. Tiona waved the big double blade in her hand and joined the battle aggressively. The crazy double-edged sword completely tore apart the terrifying aura woven by the enemy. The girl born in the country of warriors would not be afraid of strong enemies. She was only boiling to the top. The warrior's instinct was awakened by the encounter with a strong enemy, and the burning blood in the body shouted passionately. ****. I only need Arya alone, and you will be killed by me. Seeing the unexpected intruder, Revis's expression did not change at all. Having devoured many magic stones, she has now reached a point that is enough to make ordinary upper-level adventurers lose their courage to fight. Even when facing the attack of 2 LV.6, She is not panicking at all. The dark and heavy sword is wielded flexibly in the hands of Rebus, and she plays with it like a toy with exaggerated strength. The black sword light is as heavy as the earth, which makes Isai and Diona, who are resisting head-on, feel frightened. The opponent's strength is a bit exaggerated, and they are obviously at a disadvantage in this regard. Ha! The Amazon girl, who always likes fighting, is unwilling to admit defeat and tries to take the enemy's heavy slash head-on again. But the violent rebound from her hand at this moment is beyond her imagination. It seems that the opponent has not used up all his strength before, and it was only because of her slightly reckless attack that he suddenly launched this terrifying attack.